Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books and marketing expert covering literally zero black athletes join woke NAACP Florida boycott. Let's get into the story. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate you guys. From the College Fix, no black athletes have taken up the NAACP Florida boycott. From Fox News, NAACP urged black athletes to reconsider playing at Florida colleges due to anti-DEI bill. And from CNN, NAACP DEI supporters call on black athletes to avoid colleges in states with anti-DEI laws. So the NAACP is trying to mess with kids' lives and take opportunities away from them by telling them, look, you can boycott this college, you can boycott that university. Don't worry about your career so much. Just worry about being a pawn for us so we can try to use some political power. The saddest part about all this is the manipulation of people doesn't even work. Not only are students not doing this, this isn't the first ridiculous campaign they came up with. Yes, these are the guys that came up with this plan. NAACP issues travel advisory for Florida, says state has become hostile to black Americans. They literally did this. It didn't work either. And I understand they're trying to manipulate people and they're trying to force governments to follow whatever their DEI agenda is. It isn't working. From the College Fix, no black athletes have taken up the NAACP Florida boycott. According to an analysis, the NAACP call to boycott Florida over DEI policies falls flat. Black athletes do not appear to have any interest in taking up the NAACP's boycott of Florida over its Republican-led policies, according to a College Fix analysis, which identified at least 35 of the top-ranked black student athletes in basketball and football who recently signed with universities in the Sunshine State. And good for them. It's their career they have to think about. It's their future they need to think about, not being a political pawn for somebody. Quote, to all current and prospective college student athletes, the NAACP urges you to reconsider any potential decision to attend and compete at a predominantly white institution in the state of Florida, their March 11th letter stated. Quote, this is not about politics. It's about the protection of our community, the progression of our culture, and most of all, it's about your education and your future, stated the letter. Of course, the problem is you can't put all this on student athletes. They can't help you. There are multi-millionaire people who are all behind DEI, except when it comes to standing up and taking action, maybe sacrificing a few of their dollars, maybe a few of their relationships, maybe putting a little bit of their lives on the line to try to promote this agenda. But they don't want to do it. They don't want to go out of their way. Sure, a few people make a few statements, but who's actually putting up money or taking a risk? So they put it on these students to try to take this risk. And the students say, hey, I'm not doing that. I have to do what's right for me and my future. The letter criticized Florida and Governor Ron DeSantis for eliminating diversity, equity, and inclusion spending at state universities and other initiatives. Quote, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has made no effort to conceal his administration's devaluation of black America, the NAACP wrote. From racist voting policies to unraveling reproductive freedoms and attempting to rewrite black history, DeSantis has waged war on black America. He's changing voting policies, and you want college students because of reproductive rights and things to not go to certain colleges and try to figure out where else they can go. I don't think a lot of students are in a position to get into boycotts that only hurt their future. This guy has lost his mind. Quote, now as a result of his administration's anti-black ideals, all state-funded universities in Florida will be forced to dismantle their diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, the NAACP wrote. And of course, none of these colleges and universities in Florida are being forced to cancel these programs. They're just being informed they're not going to be paid for with government dollars anymore. You need to go find some other funding if you want to have these discriminatory policies and programs. The government's not going to pay for it anymore. The College Fix, having identified 35 of the top-ranked black student athletes in basketball and football, have found that none of these students have actually taken up the NAACP on their boycott idea. The College Fix shared this list with the NAACP and asked them for a comment. The group has not responded to 2 emailed requests. However, they may not ever respond. The College Fix sent another email on April 4th to Press Secretary Alicia Mercedes and Public Relations Manager China Fields, asking if anyone had decommitted. Neither responded to the email. So the answer is no, but they're embarrassed. That number includes Jaleel Bethia and is the 6th best player in the class of 2024, according to ESPN. He'll be joined next year by Austin Schwartz, the 43rd best player. University of Florida has 2 of the top 10 football players joining campus next year, both of whom are black. A new search about decommits did not yield any proof of black athletes leaving Florida universities due to the NAACP boycott demand. The boycott could also be problematic for Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University, a historically black college. But the university has no comment, spokesman Andrew Merritt told The Fix via email. It is not clear where the top players should go instead. Many of the top-ranked football teams, for example, are in red states, with similar restrictions on DEI. These include the University of Georgia, the University of Texas, and the University of Alabama. The NAACP also issued a travel advisory for Florida. I couldn't believe when they did this. The travel advisory warned black Americans not to go to Florida, and if they do, to be cautious. It said this, quote, "Please be advised that Florida is openly hostile towards African Americans." It is not. Also, people of color and LGBT individuals. No, it's not. The NAACP stated this in a 2023 letter. Quote, "Before traveling to Florida, please understand that the state of Florida devalues and marginalizes the contributions of and the challenges faced by African Americans and other minorities." What a ridiculous and insulting statement to make as you insult the entire population of Florida. And of course, it's just a nonsense statement that has no effect because no one's going to make changes to their plans to either move to, visit, or go on vacation to Florida based on a statement like this. Russell, the chairman, appears to still live in Tampa nearly a year after his organization issued the warning. His Twitter profile still lists him as living in Tampa, so he'll warn you not to go to Florida, but it's okay for him because he likes living in Florida. You know, the sun, the girls, the beaches, it's great in Florida. Fields and Mercedes, the media relations reps for the NAACP, also did not answer a question on April 4th about Russell's residency and any plans to leave Florida. Yeah, he plans to not leave Florida, and he plans to try to come up with another scheme to try to manipulate people and utilize college students as pawns to push a political agenda, not even caring what's right for those college students. Fortunately, they're all smart enough to know, I'm not going to trust this guy. I'm going to go where it's right for me. From the NAACP's website, NAACP Travel Advisory for the state of Florida. They really did do this. Let's go over the details. Under the current governor, the state of Florida has engaged in an all-out attack on black Americans, accurate black history, voting rights, members of the LGBT community, immigrants, women's reproductive rights, and free speech, while simultaneously embracing a culture of fear, bullying, and intimidation by public officials. When people pushing diversity, equity, and inclusion are talking about accurate black history, they're talking about the 1619 Project. This is not accurate black history. This is commentary. The 1619 Project started in 2019 as a project from the New York Times. It's not really history. So just because you didn't embrace this history from the New York Times, who is obviously pushing an ideological agenda, and submit all of your education in your entire state to this new project from the ideological New York Times, no, it doesn't mean you're not teaching accurate black history. He goes on, in his effort to rewrite American history to exclude the voices, contributions of African Americans, and the challenges they overcame despite the systemic racism, which doesn't exist in the United States, that African Americans have faced since arriving in this country. Governor DeSantis has signed various controversial anti-civil rights measures into law, including the Combating Violence, Disorder, and Looting and Law Enforcement Protection Act Florida HB 1, which in several states, they don't like looting. They just don't like it. Florida outlawed Black Lives Matter riots. You can have a legitimate protest, but no, the people of Florida don't want looting and they don't want riots. It doesn't matter what your skin color is. Under the leadership of Governor Ron DeSantis, the state of Florida has criminalized protest. No, not protest, violence. You can't do violence, you can't do looting. That is against the law in Florida. Restricted the ability of educators to teach African American history. No, political ideology, that's what's not allowed. History that they just made up in 2019 and decided, hey, you know what? We can push our diversity agenda if we just rewrite history and then claim they're rewriting history by not allowing us to rewrite history. And engaged in a blatant war against diversity and inclusion. Well, you left out the equity part, but sure. On a seeming quest to silence African American voices, the governor and state of Florida have shown that African Americans are not welcome in the state of Florida. That's not true. You can go to Florida, but you're not going to be able to change their laws and do things to their children that parents are not comfortable with. Due to this sustained, blatant, relentless, and systemic attack on democracy and civil rights and Marxism, the NAACP hereby issues a travel advisory to African Americans and other people of color regarding the hostility toward African Americans in Florida. Please be advised, this is for your own good, people, that Florida is openly hostile towards African Americans, people of color, and LGBT individuals. Before traveling to Florida, please understand that the state of Florida devalues and marginalizes the contributions of and the challenges faced by African Americans and other minorities. Such a horrendous thing to say. Of course they don't. They're just not going to be cry-bullied into turning their entire society over to this communist and Marxist agenda. But he warns, if you decide to travel to Florida, please be advised that Florida public schools will not teach your children accurate African American history that we just invented 5 years ago, which includes a history of enslavement, segregation, racial injustice, and systemic racism. If you're traveling to Florida, whether you're white or black or a person or something of color, don't try to bring your kids to the public schools while you're on vacation. You're just there for a vacation, so they shouldn't be going to public school anyway. If you're going to move to Florida, you will need to enroll them in local public schools. Please be advised that the state of Florida does not value diversity, equity, and inclusion in Florida schools, colleges, and universities. That you ought to know. If you're going there to try to push a woke agenda, it's not going to work out so well. Also, please be advised that the state of Florida does not welcome the contributions of African Americans and people of color. No, they love contributions no matter what your skin color is. Please be advised that individuals may carry concealed firearms without permits in Florida. It's not just the crooks that have guns in Florida. It's the people of Florida that have a right to carry, and they will carry it, as is their Second Amendment right. Another way of saying that is fool around and find out if you're in Florida. Please be advised that there is a stand your ground law in Florida. What's a stand your ground law? Stand your ground laws, sometimes called shoot first laws, remove the duty to retreat and permit the use of deadly force in self-defense, although the scope of these laws varies from state to state. In 2005, Florida became the first state to pass a stand your ground law. Don't attack people in Florida. Don't attack people anywhere, but the consequences could be worse in Florida. Why you'd need to attack people in Florida, I don't know. Just go on vacation or go and start a new life there. But don't attack people. And I don't know why that has anything to do with black people or people of color. It has nothing to do with that. Your skin color is not relevant in this equation. If you do decide to travel to Florida, please exercise extreme care in all parts of the state. Be aware of your surroundings. You should be aware of your surroundings wherever you go, but sure, why not? If you decide to go to the state of Florida, please be aware of the open hostility towards African Americans and people of color. You know, I've been to Florida before, and when I visit Florida, I've seen people smile at me and just wave at me and say hello like complete strangers. They seem very polite. If you decide to go to the state of Florida, please advocate for legislation that support diversity in all aspects of education. No, I'm not going to be part of your political agenda just because I go and visit Florida. That's a definite no. If you decide to go to the state of Florida, please advocate for the right to peacefully assemble and protest any unjust laws or actions by the state. You don't have any problem there. You can peacefully assemble wherever you'd like to peacefully assemble in Florida. If you want to go and loot stores or commit violence, it's not going to work out for you. And I don't think you're going to peacefully protest for the right to commit violence anyway. If you do decide to go to the state of Florida, please advocate for the protection of African Americans' right to vote. Everyone has the right to vote in Florida. If you want to vote in ways that make the elections unsecure, it's not going to work out well for you. In Florida, they have pretty good voter integrity laws. If you are a resident of Florida, or may become a resident of Florida, we ask you to join in our advocacy efforts to defeat the regressive policies of this governor and this state legislature. The state legislature are elected, and so is the governor, and they represent the views of the people of the state of Florida. So they don't want to ruin their state. So they have laws in the state to create an environment that everybody can thrive in. They're not going to be taken over by woke communist Marxist ideologies. Sounds like a nice place to live. And finally, this advisory will remain in effect until further notice. Do you think anyone took this advisory seriously? Charlemagne the God blasts DEI. Charlemagne the God blasted diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts in the workplace and called it garbage. He's right, it's garbage. It's not good for the organization, and it's not good for the individual. This trend can't last. Businesses are inherently competitive. If you put people in positions where they're not going to be successful just because of their skin color, they're going to have a problem. They're going to struggle, and they're not going to do well in their career. They're going to be outmatched by other people in their positions. As companies get in trouble, they will get rid of the people that are not as productive as other people. It's not going to matter what their skin color is. The weak links will be removed from the chains. That's a metaphor. During the guest host's appearance on The Daily Show, the radio host argued that DEI does nothing to help racial minorities as he played advertisements created by large corporations like Heinz, Vaseline, and General Mills bragging about their DEI efforts. Quote, the truth about DEI is that although it's well-intentioned, which I doubt, I don't think it's well-intentioned. It's a political ideology to push the concept of socialism and communism, extremely negative for everyone involved in the process. He goes on, it's mostly garbage, okay? It's kind of like the Black Little Mermaid. Just because the racists hate it doesn't mean it's good. And you know I'm right, because every one of you sat through one of those diversity training sessions and thought, this is some bull. And it's not just you, he added. Over 900 studies have shown that DEI programs don't make the workplace better for minorities. In fact, it can actually make things worse because of the backlash effect. The backlash effect is when companies outright say, we're not focused on merit. When they say that, why should you try hard? Whether you're white or you're black or you're a person of color or LGBT, if you're not going to be judged based on what you do, based on your performance, why would you try? And then when people look at you, if you're a certain skin color, they'll say, well, you're not going to advance because you're white. And then they'll see another person and they'll say, oh, you only have that job because you're black. So you're not going to get any respect. So why should you even try? It destroys company culture. Quote, the biggest failure of DEI is that the number of black people in power at big companies is basically the same as it was 5 years ago, he says. In fact, maybe the only thing that DEI has accomplished is giving racist white people cover to be openly racist. Well, racist this, racist that. The whole concept of DEI is racist. All people are saying who are of common sense is that it doesn't make sense to exclude merit when you're at a workplace that's within a capitalist system that, of course, was built on merit and depends on merit for the business to continue to exist. The radio host closed out the segment, noting that he's not surprised these DEI programs didn't work because, he said, it's just corporate PR, and also they want to cover their butts in case they get sued. Well, we don't need corporate DEI, he said. Yes, we want diversity, equity, and inclusion. Real DEI is only going to come from black leadership. It's not that surprising to see that black athletes want to have success and want to have a good career and are going to the school that's right for them. People do have to think about themselves as individuals, and they also have to plan a future based on merit. DEI is not going to last. NAACP tells you don't go to Florida because it's dangerous for you if you look a certain way. It's not dangerous for you if you look a certain way to take a trip to Florida or to make a life in Florida. It's also not dangerous for you to take a good position at a college that's good for your career. The people pushing this DEI agenda only want power, and they don't care who they hurt, whether it's a white person or a person of color. They'll hurt anyone they need to hurt so they can get more power. It's good to see DEI completely falling apart. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another story. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.